What up, mother chuggers? See what I did there? So, today I'm showcasing the newest axe in the arsenal, which is the Schecter Red Dawn. Technically, it's the Schecter Sunset Red Dawn. By the way, just before I even get into anything, if you guys hear any like background noise, that's the humidifier going. Being here in Las Vegas, I have to run the humidifier usually like once or twice a month. I mean, if I could, I'd leave it on all the time. But with the air being so dry out here in the desert, I'd have to refill it like every other day. So anyway, shouldn't be, you won't hear it over the music or most of my talking. But anyway, so I wanted to showcase the Red Dawn as this is the newest axe that I bought, not just for review, but also for myself. I've kind of written off LTD for now, just for the time being, until their South Korean factories start like kind of stepping up their quality control a little better. So anyway, this particular Red Dawn that I have weighs in at 8 pounds exactly. Schecter locking tuners, which I like just fine. They were on the Hellraiser, never had a problem with them. Keep in mind though, guys, if you are using locking tuners of any kind, no matter what the brand, you still have to do at least one wrap around the tuning peg. All right, because otherwise you're going to have uneven tension. They're going to go out of tune on you, whether you have, no matter what bridge you're using. I mean, unless you're using a Floyd Rose, then you could probably, because you got the locking nut. But aside from that, if you got locking tuners, make sure you still do 1 or 2 winds around the tuning peg. All right, so Schecter locking tuners, 24 fret, luminlay side dot markers, which I thought were luminescent. Turns out they actually aren't. I thought they were luminescent, which is for any of you guys that are own firearms or big into firearms like I am. That's what the manufacturer SIG has on their night sights. Their night sights are actually luminescent, meaning they pretty much glow all the time. These are actually glow in the dark. So I want to make sure that there's no confusion on that. And let's see, as we go up, we've got the red binding around the entire guitar, top of the headstock, even on the neck. All right. It is not neck through construction. It is a set neck joint, but Schecter has their own name for it. I just can't remember what it's called. Let's see. We've got the satin neck, which is fine. I don't really prefer satin neck over any other. Actually, I prefer natural. But I would have been fine with even if it was gloss. I don't have an issue. It's an ultra thin C neck profile, so finish on the back really doesn't matter. It only starts to matter more when you start using a thicker neck, like a thin C, as opposed to the ultra thin C for the Schecter line. Fishman Fluence, modern open cores. I'm gonna do some quick clean and quick high gain playing on this, but just to kind of give like a description of the open cores, they're almost approaching like the EMG X series in a way. So a little more clarity like the X series, a little more compression than the standard Fishman Fluence moderns, which I personally like. I like that it has a little more compression. This is the 3 voicing, okay? So you've got the push-pull for voice 1, voice 2, and then a 5-way selector, meaning that if the first position is humbucker, second position is coil tap. A little bit of volume loss with the coil tap. Not the end of the world. I would have liked to see a little less of a volume loss, but nevertheless, let's see. Let's go right into some clean tones. Might help if I turn my pedal board on. Power, it always helps. Well, Hopefully you don't get too much stream noise because I kind of shifted a few things around in here. Alright, so voice 1. Not bad, very crisp. Voice 2. Also not bad, a little warmer. Let's try single coil. Also, really nice coil tap sound. The only thing, like I've already mentioned, is there is a volume loss, which I kind of hoped there wasn't going to be as much of a volume loss like this. I was kind of hoping it would be a little more balanced with humbucker mode, because that was supposedly what Fishman was working on, but that might be more for the classic set as opposed to the open core. One more time on the coil tap, because I just raised the volume a little bit. All right, so overall, just a really nice sound, especially with the voice 2 or using coil tap. One thing to note that I've noticed is that no matter if I use the coil tap switch, right, which is just position 2, it doesn't matter what voicing I have the volume knob at. It could be voice 2, voice 1, it'll still be in coil tap mode, but it's its own voicing. So it doesn't have, it's not in 1 or 2, it's technically in voice 3. So just so you guys are aware, you don't have to do the push pull knob before accessing the coil tap. Not at all. Let's go to the neck, but I'll do split coil or coil tap. So you still get a volume loss, but it almost sounds a little louder. It sounds like it's a little louder when you're coil tapping the neck as opposed to the bridge pickup. So something to be aware of, which is always nice. Okay, so overall, real nice sound. I think it's fine. No problem there. I'm gonna go to high gain. Zombies boosted like always with 0 gain, volume all the way up, tones pretty much right in the middle. And let's hope I get loud enough where you don't hear the stream noise, but not so loud where I blow your eardrums. Voice 1. Voice 2. And for the hell of it, we're just going to do single coil on the same riff. Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do single coil when you're trying to do progressive riffs like that, because it just doesn't work. So voice 2, well, let's start with voice 1. Voice 1 is definitely pretty cutting, pretty searing, straight to the point. Voice 2, I wouldn't call that an active, or excuse me, I wouldn't call that a passive voicing. It's just EQ'd a little differently. It's a little warmer, a little more bass, a little more low mids, and it tames the highs so they're not as like screechy. That was voice 1. So yeah, not bad. Okay, back to voice 1. I'm just gonna do some random riffing and maybe some lead work here. So yeah, not a whole ton of playing today. You know, the big thing is I just want to showcase, give some sound samples. By the way, crafted in Indonesia. Don't know if you can see it, of all places, right? So that was like the biggest surprise that I had, was not only was it made in Indonesia. Well, I mean, I already knew that before I ordered it, but the surprise was the fact that even though it's made in Indonesia, I can't find a finish flaw on this thing at all. I mean, I've looked everywhere for it, for like a hidden finish flaw or a hidden quality control issue, and I haven't found a single one. You know, I think this is very well built, constructed, and finished. You know, the only thing that I've done to it is I restrung it. I took the strings that were on it, which I believe were 10 to 46, I think. Took those off, and I put a set of 11 to 52s on, which Diodario NYXLs, and set it for drop C. The Evertune works as great as the one on my LTD MH1000, so I don't have any complaints there. Yeah, I mean, the only I think the only real, you know, the real con that I have about this guitar is the fact that when they built this and when they designed it, they made the horns kind of sharp, right? So which means you can't have a strap peg in the front here, or I should say on the side. They had to put it on the back, which just so you guys are aware of, when you have when you have strap pegs on the back like this, you end up getting just a tad more neck dive, right? When you're standing. I've played standing up, you know, at rehearsals, at shows, enough times where I can easily adapt to that. You know, it's not a deal breaker, but it's just something to be aware of. It will feel a little different with the strap peg in the back as opposed to off to the side here. So wanted to point that out. It is important. Again, not a deal breaker. The other selling point for me on this, aside from the other specs that I wanted, like I wanted the locking tuners, I wanted the open cores, I wanted the Evertune. Aside from those specs, it does have the God, I can't even think today. It has the spoke wheel truss rod adjuster, which to me is, I think it's a great thing. The first time I saw one of those, it was on a Schecter SLS Elite, and since then, like every other guitar that's had the headstock truss rod adjuster has come up short to me now. And so I really like this. You know, it's personal preference. Some people, you know, most people don't have a problem. You know, I mean, I've got a head-mounted truss rod adjustment screw in the LTD, so which is fine. You know, it's perfectly fine, no problems. But I really like this. It's not something I'm going to be adjusting very often, but the fact that it's there and it's made that way to be easily adjustable, I think is a huge pro. I think it's a huge plus. Yeah, I mean, as far as the actual series goes, this seems to be that Schecter this is going to be like Schecter's new premium line, or like a secondary premium line in terms of production models. So right now, the main production premium models or premium line is the SLS series. You know, SLS Evil Twin, SLS Elite. And with those models, you can only get either a hardtail bridge, which I think is a hip shot, or a Floyd Rose. But with the Sunset, specifically the Red Dawn series, you can only get either an Evertune or a Tunematic. And I like both personally. I don't really like standard, you know, hip standard bridge, because I hate having to adjust two different screws to raise a saddle or lower a saddle and whatever. Personal preference is what it is. Not a neck through, set joint. I gotta try to remember what Schecter calls it. They have like a special name for it. Yeah, I mean, aside from that, you know, with the Red Dawn series in particular, you've got, I think it's 4 models to choose from. You've got the Red Dawn 7 string with the Evertune. You've got the 6-string with the Evertune. You've got the 6-string baritone, which I think is a Tunematic bridge only. And then you have the 6-string standard, basically, that has a Tunematic. So you can either get a Tunematic in a 6-string or a 7-string. So I think that's really cool. I think, you know, that's the difference. That's like one of the main differences between the SLS line and the Red Dawn line, is the bridge options. And, you know, I think that's smart of Schecter to do that. That way, with people that prefer Floyd Rose, they know they just go to the SLS series. People that don't prefer Floyd Rose, they go for the Evertune series. And yeah, so honestly, no regrets here. I mean, I think it's a very well put together, well crafted and finished guitar that you know, I may end up using on stage within probably the next month or so. We'll see. But hopefully that covers most of it. I mean, there's not much else to really say. It's incredible. It's an incredible guitar. It really is. Like I said, the only con is the strap peg on the back, but it's not a deal breaker, and it shouldn't be a deal breaker for you either. Price point for the Evertune model is about $1,500. If you get the 7-string that has the Evertune, I believe it's $1,600, but don't quote me on that yet. With the prices going up with everything else, the fact that I spent like $1,400 on an LTD that had nothing but issues. Actually, 2 LTDs that one had major issues, the other one had minor finish issues. This is just 100 times better. And so I think for the time being, you know, until LTD gets to the point where they're a little more consistent with their quality control, until that time, I'm mainly going to be remaining with Schecter, with the exception of my 2018 MH1000 that I have. So anyway, I don't know. Hopefully I covered the bulk of it, of what anyone needed to know or needed to hear. If you guys have any questions, comments, suggestions, whatever the case might be, let me know. I will most likely be playing this on stage with Fuel Heavy, yeah, probably even the next month. We're still sorting out a few things. We finally introduced a second guitarist to make a few more complicated but easy listening segments. So anyway, if you guys haven't already checked out Fuel Heavy, check it out. I'll link the description, or I'll link the actual link, yeah, in the comment section. And let me know guys what you guys think as far as what you can hear. Most of it is going to be stage performances, but we're going to be trying to start a new series of living in the band type of thing. So anyway, like I said, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, complaints, let me know.